Hello, everybody. Welcome to United We Heal Film Festival's interview series, Conversations with Black Film Festivals. This series, we're going to be having conversations, kind of, as you can guess, with different people that operate in the Black Film Festival spaces. We want to hear from everyone. We love our film festival, and we also love learning from others and to collaborate with others. So that's why we're here today. So I am going to bring on our guest. His name is Gian Smith, and he founded the Black Film Festival of New Orleans. Hello, Gian. How are you?
Well, I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely excited about it.
Well, okay, so I'm nosy, so I'm just gonna ask where you headed.
So you can see I got my basketball shirt on. I also coach basketball. Um, so yeah, we had it's a school I used to coach at for a while, and then they asked me to come fill in this year because the assistant coach had to leave abruptly. So it's made my schedule a little more random, but that's what I like. I like to keep myself on my toes. So.
Okay, so today you have on your coach hat, and
Absolutely.
other days you have on your festival organizer hat. We love it.
A lot of hats.
That's how we get it done.
A lot of
We get it
hats.
done.
Yeah.
So I'll give a brief introduction of who you are for those that don't know you. We go way back. They don't know. I'm just kidding. But Gian is a community organizer. As you can tell, he's very involved in the community. He's also a New Orleans native. And as the founder of the Black Film Festival of New Orleans, he has created a safe space for Black artists throughout the diaspora to strengthen the independent film community. So also at the Black Film Festival of New Orleans, creatives find a nurturing environment that promotes African American cinema with a classic New Orleans, with a classic New Orleans flair. We got to get that word right. So I wanna actually first start with a little definition, how you describe the New Orleans flair. What does that mean to you?
Well, for me, New Orleans has always been about people. And, when I visited other places, just my natural inclination was always to get a sense of the people first, because in New Orleans, we have a diverse culture. I mean, we have so many diverse cultures here. There's a lot of people who come here because it's a port city, and it's got a reputation for being a welcoming space for lots of different types of people. So we try to celebrate that diversity by offering a lot of different parts of our culture, and the people who are the culture bearers and practitioners of some of these diverse things that we have. So at my film festival, for example, you're going to see poetry. I have a poetry background myself. It's kind of where and how I got started as an artist. But you're also going to see a lot of live music because we have great music that is, some of it's born here, some of it has been brought here. Um, we have other, really talented people, dancers. We have practices here that deserve exhibition. One of our things that everybody knows about is Mardi Gras, but there are elements of Mardi Gras that people probably don't have exposure to, and a lot of the carnival traditions comes with costuming and dressing, and so one of the organizations here that does do Mardi Gras is called the Women of Wakanda. They they parade in costume uh, like the Wakanda warriors from the movie Black Panther, and you know, we have them come and hang out and be in full dress, and I mean, like whatever we can do to give an example of what it's like to be here in New Orleans. One of the things that we do a walking tour with a friend of mine named Malik, and he does African American themed walking tours through Treme and the French Quarter. So that's one of the things that we offer to the filmmakers who come for the big festival. So just try to make sure that we have a lot of different activities that are representative of what and who we have here.
That's pretty dope because I love how, it's a
Wait, and my mom cooks gumbo every year for the festival. I
oh
forgot about that.
shoot.
My mom
So
hooks it up. Well, this year she didn't cook gumbo. She cooked bread pudding this year. But,
that
she gonna cook
I'ma
something.
just
Yeah.
I'ma just say I kind of feel like you should lead with that. Like everything is a top seller. Like the walking tours, the local lifestyle, that's like what I love. But when you mention mom's gumbo, like you don't have to say anything else.
Yeah, it's good too. It's good.
Knock, 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 just for that.
Come on.
As well as
Come
some
on,
good
come
film.
through. Yeah.
So it's also, like what I hear, what stands out rather, there are so many film festivals throughout the world. And a lot of them, sometimes it starts with the founder just choosing a cool destination. And in your case, what sets yours apart is that you are from that destination. You didn't just think it was cool to like, hey, let me set up shop in New Orleans because it's such a cultural hub, but you wanted to represent your city for yourself. So can you talk to us a little bit about why that was important to you?
Yeah, for sure. What I would say it was important about it for me is that preservation is an is an important part of what I think a lot of our culture bearers and practitioners want to practice. It's always evolving here because there are so many diverse entities, and because there are so many opportunities here for let's be real, exploitation in some ways. And I mean, it is what it is, right? Like New Orleans is probably one of the fastest gentrifying cities that are in America right now. And and I'm not like a traditionalist who's like, oh, we have to keep things the way they were for the last 100 years. I'm not trying to make America great again. But I do want to make sure that, there are things that are like inherent to New Orleans that continue to be practiced and, continue to like have their stage. And I did not and I know that a lot of other New Orleanians do not necessarily trust when outside people feel like it's their job to take agency over that. And so, when I look around, for a long time, I was dealing with that imposter syndrome that all of us artists have about, like, am I qualified? Can I do this? Well, whoop de whoop. But every time I looked around, I'm the savior that I want to step in does not exist, and so I'm like, well, who more qualified than me from an organizational standpoint, being a native and having the sensibilities of a filmmaker and knowing what I want to get out of a film festival experience? Who do I know that's more qualified than me and has the motivation? I don't know them. If I did, they would have already done this, and I would be going to their film festival, which, I mean, that would have been fine. I wouldn't be thinking about, man, I sure wish I had started the film festival first. But, when it came down to it, that space had not been created, and there was the space and opportunity for it and the need for it. And, I felt like, who better than me, and why not now? And then, yeah, we got the ball rolling, and it's been good.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy you were the pioneer here. Not just because Mom's Gumbo is there. I'm gonna be on that one for a minute. But
It's
I'm
good.
happy you are showing up and the face representing the New Orleans film experience. So congratulations to you. It takes a lot, as we know firsthand as as film festival founders ourselves. We know how much it takes, how much blood, sweat, and tears go into it. So, can you talk about, your first off, let's get into the inspiration. You kind of already walked us through the inspiration in a sense, but is there anything else you want to add to what inspired you to helm this festival?
Yeah, for sure. I am a filmmaker. That's a transition I made. Again, I mentioned that my background was in poetry and spoken word, and just writing in general. And then by kind of by way of poetry, I transitioned into film, and I made my first short film in 2015. And I, submitted to a bunch of film festivals. At that time, I didn't really have exposure to film festivals. I didn't have an idea of what they were like. But when I got to a few of them, I knew I was underwhelmed. And I'm not, going to call anybody out in particular. And a lot of those film festivals, actually, I don't even think exist anymore. Probably because they were just, they weren't there for the right reasons. But like, I remember experiences. I would walk into like these convention centers that just felt very sterile, and it felt like the festival was like tacked on, and it didn't feel like the festival was a thing and a celebration and an institution that you'd be excited about. It felt like, oh, we can just do this, and then let's just throw up some banners and call it a festival. I would get there, and like, the person who's at the welcoming desk is a volunteer who has no direct connection with leadership themselves, who doesn't really have a lot of information to give me as far as like, here's what to do at the festival, here's what to do while you're in the city of, I'm not gonna call the city out because then you'll know what festival I'm talking about. But you know what I mean? Like I did not feel like I did not feel like I was being welcomed like I would like to be welcomed with a film that I invested a lot in and thought very highly of, and I didn't find a lot of about it engaging. Like, I always loved the networking part of it. I always loved being able to meet my peers, see their work, find out where the bar is, that kind of thing. But like, I feel like there was so much opportunity for way more than that that wasn't being explored because these festivals that I did attend felt like they could do the bare minimum and that was fine. And I mean, there's no governing body that sanctions film festivals that's going to say you have to live up to these standards. I mean, basically, Film Freeway is that, and they're like, if you have a website and a venue, then you're good to go. Which, I mean, that's not, I'm not judging that. I'm just saying that that is what it is. And so, you know, I thought that there could be better out there. I knew I could do better just by the fact that I'm not going to put my name on anything that I don't personally touch. And you know what I mean? Like, just I felt like being connected directly to the filmmakers is, at least gonna make me better than 75% of the film festivals that I've been to already. Plus, I mean, I know what's going on here, so I know, and it's a great city. There's a lot popping. So, even outside of the actual festival events, we integrate into other things that are happening in the city, and I mean, it's just an easy transition for me to have people here who want to explore this city and me be able to tell them what to do, and I'm like, yeah, let's get it rolling. So, it was probably about, and it was those two things: me feeling like I can do it and do it well, me feeling like I have not seen it done well enough, and then also, I mentioned to y'all when I talked to you before when we were going way back, Jetta. My background was in poetry, and I have hosted an open mic here for about 17 years now. And one of the times, our open mic is poetry, music, and visual arts based. But one time, the other co-founders, they allowed me to veer away, and we screened some films. I brought in five black filmmakers that are all New Orleans residents, people I've known, and this is in like 2017. This is the year before I started the festival, and I was shocked that I was the only one who knew any of the other people. None of the five people, well, none of the
Wow.
other four people knew each other. And I was like, how is it that we are in this city together doing this very similar thing, which is a totally collaborative thing? Like, like you have to have a team to make films. How is it that we don't even know the people to ask to be on our team because we don't know who else is doing this thing? I'm like, that's just wild to me, honestly. And so I was like, I said this could also be an opportunity to, in some ways, bring this community together and build this community. And I love New Orleans. I always have. I was displaced after Katrina for a couple of months. Made a personal vow to myself to come back here and do what I can to make a footprint in the arts community. And so I figured this could be a great step towards making sure that you know we don't miss an opportunity for our storytellers to have a space for them and be allowed to grow and hopefully open up some ideas for people outside of this region about what we have to offer and what kind of great place this could be for them temporarily, permanently, or whatever comes to mind. So yeah, those are
Wow.
the things.
So I just want to shout out a couple of the gifts that I hear as you're talking. The gift to promote as well as to connect. Because not everyone knows how to, or is even interested in connecting. People to each other in the same spaces. So the fact that you recognize the need and you are actively creating a solution and environment to connect others, I think is very beautiful. So shout out to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So since 2017, 2018, since the inception of the Film Festival of New Orleans, can you now tell us about some of your challenges that you faced?
Whew, well, let's see. The very first year I did the film festival, my most immediate challenge was money. And, money is always going to be like a little bit of a challenge, right? Because, finding funding is, it's contingent on other people believing in your idea, you being able to validate your program, that kind of thing. And I'm not the best salesman. I mean, I feel like I have, I feel like my own personal approach to selling things is I want to offer you something that you see a great value in, and so it sells itself. But that when you're writing a grant, maybe that's you're up against a lot of projects that also have a lot of merit, and so it is what it is. So, but money truly hasn't been as big of a challenge as it could have been because I have been very fortunate. But that first year that I did the festival, I had a couple of promises from people who well-meaning people who I'm sure when they told me this felt strongly about it. I had people who told me that they could get me money to do the festival. So I moved forward with that in mind. And then when it came time for the money to come, oh, I don't know what happened. I thought I could get, this person and this person. And, what I mean, and not people who like say things and don't follow up, like legitimately people who I know have the capacity to do the things that they were saying they expected to do. And I think it just did not work out the way they expected to. I mean, certainly some of that could have been on my end because I probably wasn't giving them enough resources to promote the event. I mean, I hadn't done anything yet, so I didn't really have anything to tell them except my ideas. And so, maybe that could have been like part of the thing that hampered it, right? But at any rate, the point is like we were a month away from the festival happening, and I had no money, and I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. And a good friend of mine. His name's Io Scott. He's an artist here also. He's a visual artist. He's one of the people I do the open mic with, and we collaborate on a lot of creative things. He was working with a nonprofit called Making Connections. Making Connections New Orleans no longer exists. They lost their funding, sadly. But part of the reason that it did exist was to provide opportunities for black and brown men in New Orleans. And so they just happen to have money that, could be used for programming. IO, again, was doing work for them, mentioned to, her name's Kalila Collins, mentioned to Kalila, who was running Making Connections, what my challenges were. And she's like, Psh, I got him. And, just wrote me a check for $2,500, which like a film festival, I don't know what other people's film festivals are like, but for me, film festivals aren't too costly. I'm good at cashing in favors, and I have a lot of favors because I like to do people favors, so I can cash them in. And so I was, when I need, look, it's nice to know that somebody owes you. So, you know, when it was time in 2018 for me to, check in with you, hey, remember the thing I did for you? Yeah, I need a venue, and and it worked out. And so I was able to execute the first year, with that minor budget, and from then on, it's been amazing. And now, I mean, the festival's a little bigger. Like at that point, it was a 2-day festival. And basically what I had to pay for was like the screening space and some green room stuff for the filmmakers. But like now we're doing a lot better, and we're still spending wisely and making a great experience that benefits everybody involved. So I guess that challenge is always going to be there. Like every year, we're going to have to find money. I'm lucky enough that I'm getting a recurring grant from the city of New Orleans now to do this
Oh.
programming. I don't take that for granted that it's just going to be around always. They gave me a recurring grant for 3 years that started last year. So I'll get my money for this year, hopefully soon. And then I'll get money again next year. And then after that, hopefully they'll want to continue working with us. I feel like we're providing them exactly what they want, and a thing that is unmatched around here and other places, and even the Gulf South, in my opinion. So hopefully, this will be something they continue. And then on my end, I'm just trying to build it out and make sure that there's more awareness around it and bring more people in as much as I can, and and also like deliver what I can for the city, who has invested in me to create this institution that's gonna supposed to attract this industry in the ways that it does. So we'll see, but I do feel confidently about the money piece. And so the challenge from now on is me just staying on top of things and keeping my discipline and continuing to build.
I mean, I love that you said discipline because that's oftentimes the key. The discipline is the magic to success. So you're there because I was going to kind of rewind to when you said money wasn't a thing. You've always been fortunate. I kind of wanted to dig in a little bit more there, but it sounds like it answered itself.
Yeah, I've had some luck with my grant writing. We have a very competitive grant here called the New Orleans Tourism and Culture Foundation. They are using money that's earmarked from our tourism industry. New Orleans has a multi-billion-dollar tourism industry. That's our economy. That and favors. And so it's a thing that was set up by our city officials in order to make sure that there was money going back into the community, especially the people who are making things possible for the city and for our tourism industry. So I got in on the ground floor with that because the woman who runs that, her name's Lisa Alexis. She was a fan of the festival, and wanted to make sure that that I knew what was going on. So it's like the year that they opened that up, she like pushed me to do it. It wasn't as competitive back then. Back then they would open the grant up for a month, and then people would submit their things, and it became so popular because people like were having successful events and promoting New Orleans and Tourism Culture Fund. And once everybody knew about it, they were like, oh, let me get on board. Now it's really, really hard to get into. They made a special track for some of the institutions that had already been around, like mine, to make sure that we get our money first outside of the what's happening competitively. That's the grant I'm getting last year now and the next year. Hopefully that's a thing that they can sustain because it gets more and more competitive every year. But hopefully they see the work coming from me that is doing what they want to do and continue to support that. So I'm sure they will. And if not them, then like somebody's gonna give us some money. We do good work. We do a really good festival. It's a good thing for the city and for filmmakers around the world, and it's completely free. Everything is free. So we're doing something right. So I believe in it.
Starts with a good product, which you have. Can you give a couple of quick tips on grant writing, if you can, like whatever comes to you, like first?
Sure thing. My thing is that number one, whatever the grant is trying to service, whatever you are doing needs to address that. So like again, the grant that I apply for is the New Orleans Tourism and Culture Fund. Their bottom line is tourism. So when I write my grant, I don't I definitely include what I'm trying to do for the New Orleans community, but I also make sure that I am speaking a lot about the impact that it has in terms of filmmakers coming in, terms of how many hotels they're renting, what, how long they're here for, what kind of things that we're doing that has engagement with the city. And then, the promise of opening, like, the idea is that the filmmakers that I'm inviting now, they're at, the point in their career where they're still financing their own films, where they're still building. But someday these are going to be the movers and shakers in, the rooms where decisions are made. And I want them to have an experience and a connection with New Orleans when they start thinking about where they should be doing things. And so that's what I'm leading with that on any grant that I'm writing for the tourism and culture
Oh,
fund. Like,
wow,
I
wow.
want to bring people here. You know what I mean? Another grant that I get is the the jazz festival, which is like one of our most popular events. um, they do a grant where they give back to the community. It's called the Community Partnership Grant. So for that one, it's kind of the converse of that. I don't talk about the tourism part as much. I talk specifically
Mhm.
about directly, the work that I do with the community. I talk about bringing in filmmakers locally. I talk about the screenings that we have to make sure that local filmmakers are getting their representation, getting their opportunity to screen. I talk about the development lab that I run. I teach filmmaking to aspiring and early career filmmakers, at young adults and I mean, well, anybody who wants to learn really, but like adult age people who are trying to find work in the industry and not just like making narrative films for theatrical purposes, but like all kinds of film production. Like we do, we get one of the things, my class that I have now, I bring them in on gigs with me, and then they get to be paid for the work they're doing. And so like we shot a mock trial for Tulane's law school, and so I had two of my people doing camera work. I had one person doing audio work. They're learning all the phases of production. Theoretically, once you finish with the program, you're supposed to come away with it being able to make a movie by yourself. That's the idea. And so, I'm gonna lead with that on the community partnership grant, right? Because then I get an opportunity to tell you we're doing this great thing that is giving more people real, tangible skills that they
Mhm.
can monetize and commodify, and in addition to all the other things that are going on. So I got a little bit off on that tangent, but the point is that whatever it is that your thing is doing, there's a way to frame it to meet the funding source, and it's kind of up to you to know your thing well enough and to imagine your thing well enough. And maybe if you don't meet the criteria, maybe it's an opportunity for you to have more awareness around what kind of thing you could be doing to be of better service so that you have some of those opportunities. So yeah, that's my little secret.
Because I think that like the obvious sometimes is the hardest thing to like grasp. Sometimes when we're writing, I mean, actually myself included, sometimes when I'm approaching a grant, it just like, I default to the general thing of what I am and who I am. And the obvious or the better thing is to, as you explained already, is to make it very specific to what the people want and, recording each other almost.
Right, and ideally while still like being able to express who you are and what you are, right? Who you are and what you are in relation to what they want, but the big picture also. Yeah.
Yes, okay. I love it. So now let's talk about your filmmakers. In all of these years, can you please give us one of your favorite examples of a filmmaker that has come through the festival and now, is doing big things and it started there with you?
Well, so I definitely don't want to say it started with me. This person was definitely doing big things anyway. And I have a lot of favorites for sure. But one guy, his name's Jasmine, and he is a producer for BMF, Black Mafia Family, the 50 Cent show that was on Stars.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so he produced a movie called Bloom. It was a short film. I think this was in 2019, so it's the second year of the festival. And it was funny. I was just watching. I don't really watch too much TV, and I walked in on the end of BMF. My mom does watch it, so I walked in there while she was watching it, and it was at the end. And like I saw his name, I'm like, what? Like he's a producer on this big time show. I was like, man, this dude was at my film festival. I'm like, that's wild. And then so I texted him to like congratulate him, and and we talked for a little bit. And then he hit me back up a couple of weeks later because again he thought about he had the connection down here. 50 Cent opened up a movie studio in Shreveport, and he was asking me questions about like this area, and whether or not like he wanted to find out if there were parts of this region that could look like Miami Beach for a show that he was trying to pitch 250 for the new studio. I told him probably not, but look, but there's plenty of other shows that he could do here too. And then I was like, and I've also got some ideas if you want some. But we didn't get that far into it. But just again, like was really excited to like see his name at the top of the title card, and super proud of him for like his work, and just being able to persevere and find his success in the industry. So yeah,
Okay.
my dude.
Now we're gonna kind of talk about the community at large in the filmmaking space. Right now the political climate is wild. We already know that. So us sticking together is sticking together. Never felt so important, should I say, especially in the arts. So, do you have any thoughts on how Black film festivals can collaborate with each other, how we can come together and, just work together to amplify Black voices in general?
Huh. That's a good question, and I don't know that I've put a whole lot of imagination into how I could work with other like in particular, like how I could, and therefore like how any of us could. And mostly just because like, you know, I did start this film festival with an organizational background, but I also didn't know how to run a film festival still, and I spent a good part of the last 6 years learning that. So a lot of my imagination has been put towards how do I do this thing well, before I think about how I could
Yeah.
do something well alongside someone. But having said that, I believe that connectivity could be something that could happen behind the scenes and in like a platform like this where it's something that's visible. I think that I would love to get recommendations from other film festivals for films that aren't aware of the film festival we have here but would love to be a part of it. And I would love the opportunity for my audience to be able to see any and everything out there that is coming from a filmmaker who put care and time into their film. So like that would be great for me to get like to get pushed a list of films and connections to filmmakers like, hey, this is our our top 20 list from this year. Reach out to these people. That would be great. um i i, I would love to see other black film festivals promote for one another. And me saying that is I'm not saying it like I think we're doing a poor job of it, because I would make that critique because I haven't started doing it,
Right.
right? I
Right.
haven't promoted for other black film festivals on my platform. And so I'm not criticizing anybody about that, but I would love if someone, Short and Sweet Films, had the bandwidth to connect us in that way and make that a priority for us, and put us on each other's maps that way. Um, I mean, I don't know. I don't like I said, I don't know that I have like the best imagination for how collaboration could happen, but I'm down. Like I'm into it. So
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I think that's a lot of us. We're all trying to figure it out, and we're all focused on being the best versions of ourselves, and that can take a while. But along the way, we do overlook the importance, or not even the importance, but the opportunity to collaborate with each other. It's just, as you already stated, it's just one of those things that doesn't organically like come to mind because we have to figure out how to build out our own thing. So that's kind of why we're even having this conversation, is because we do value, collaboration and community. Like there's, us promoting you does not in any way take away any shine from the United We Heal Film Festival. So hopefully, not even hopefully, but we're doing it. We're doing it now.
Yeah, we are in the process of doing it right now. You're right.
And thank you for being a part of the process.
I'm in. Sign me up.
Gotcha. You're in. No takebacks. Okay. So, back to just the festivals at large, or particularly Black festivals, and if you ever could identify, say, the differences between, say, Black or film festivals and non-Black, do you say, like, are you aware of any like challenges that we experience versus other film festivals today? The biggest challenges that we as Black film festival founders and facilitators we experience versus everyone else.
Hmm. Yeah, that one would for sure be hard for me to answer because I have almost zero perspective on not black film festivals, and I say that to say that it a, a while ago it really dawned on me that I had mentioned this in our previous conversation that a lot of my expectations of film festivals when I first started going might have been a little unreasonable. Um, to say that there's 11,000 film festivals on Film Freeway, and therefore even way more than that exist in the world. All of them are not going to have somebody from Netflix who's looking for content. All of them are not going to have, you know, I don't know, Lorenz Tate and Nia Long showing up as ambassadors. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to be the case everywhere. But black film festivals are going to have black people, and they're going to have black films. And when I thought about what am I submitting to film festivals for? Am I trying to advance my project? Am I trying to build a career, get networking opportunities? Because like the majority of the film festivals aren't necessarily going to like give me that direct track. And for me, the bigger picture was no, I want to meet people who are also doing this. I want to find films that I think are amazing so that I can show them in New Orleans. And at that point, it was like, I don't need non black film festivals. Like, I don't need, I mean, I don't know. Maybe, like, if the film is in Sundance, maybe if my film is in Sundance, then distribution is going to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe if it's in, like, Tribeca or Cannes, then distribution is going to happen. And then outside of those three, white institutions, like I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but like I don't know, am I getting distribution because I went to Holly Shorts
Right.
or the Palm Springs International Film Festival? You know what I mean? All of these like super competitive film festivals that veer white anyway and cost $75 just to submit to, for them not to even care too much about your film. I was like, nah, I'm out. And so like I haven't really like so that we have a film festival in New Orleans, the New Orleans Film Festival, and they are a primarily white film festival, and I have connections with them, so I've screened with them. But like, other than that, I don't really even give my money to them to view my film. I don't know. I kind of like, I don't really care what you think. So, I say that to say that I've definitely not put a lot of time or energy into figuring them out, and I don't know that I could distinguish them from us. And I wish you well. I wish well to those people, but but I do know that our challenges for as Black film festivals are, number one, that we're trying to serve as black filmmakers who are also 9 times out of 10 going to be underfunded on their projects. We don't have a lot of people who can pull from a trust fund to make a movie because they want to give it a shot. And you know, I think that all of us know this. All of us who are filmmakers know this. Like the only way to really practice your craft is to do it. You can't get good at making movies without making movies.
Right.
And making movies costs money. And so, that's that's part of the equation for me when I'm evaluating a film that has submitted to me. I don't expect the film to look like it's HBO ready because I know that the filmmaker didn't have
Right.
$25,000 to spend on a 7-minute short film.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the content from from a different perspective. I'm trying to see, is this person somebody who cares about their film? Did they
Mm.
submit something to me without being thoughtful and careful about it, and there's sound issues or like things like that. Like I can, I'm not going to worry about the camera resolution if somebody made a very clean edit. Oh, you took care of, you did sound design, you like clearly put thought and effort into your film. I love it. I want to show your film. um but but there's still going to be plenty of films that come in that are going to have some glitches or some, just somewhat flawed, just won't be perfect, perfectly made movies. And as a film festival, my audience that I have cultivated over these years trusts me to bring them quality material. And so it is my job to still be discerning about, I want to give opportunities to people who I know are deserving of opportunities, but I also don't want to promote something to my audience that I wouldn't stand by myself. And so, I think, like, if anything, you know, just the resource deprivation that Black people in America feel through all of the parts of our lives is definitely going to resonate, in our institutions as well. The Denton Black Film Festival administrators, Linda and Harry Eady, love them, have a good relationship with them. And then the Hip Hop Film Festival, definitely connected with those guys. But like, I don't really have too many conversations about this part, but which maybe short and sweet could help me out with that. So.
Yeah. So I mean, it sounds like you kind of have struck the right balance of, understanding where people are and how they're making the best of it. We're making $1 out of 15 cents. We ain't gotta make it look like it's 15 cents.
Right.
So it sounds like
Please
you
make it look like 75 cents, please. I could do 75 cents. I'm gonna screen you.
That's, I mean, so you have that eye, which leads to my next question, which, as we mentioned earlier, you've worn a lot of hats in the entertainment industry, in general, at large. So can you tell us how your experience, how your multiple hats inform, how you shape your festival and your role as, the leader?
Absolutely. So yeah, so as I mentioned, the background that I have, not just with my open mic, but with me just really integrating myself into the art scene in the city because of my own personal love of the arts. But because, like, for years now I've been booking talent and been making relationships with people who I admire for their talent and their character. So it's, for me, um, it's a really low bar to meet to be able to bring in something that is representative of the city, that gives people a chance to interact with all the great things that we have going on here, and gives me an opportunity to, like, do another solid for people who need the exposure, who need booked opportunities, who need more audiences and stuff like that. And so it's one of those, like, one of those cyclical things that really, it works for everybody. And and I'm so glad that I can be the conduit for it. And like, offer the platform that I have to all of these other very deserving people. So for me, it's definitely a several fold thing that's working. And I feel like it definitely is something that I was, even if I didn't know that this would be like where the path would lead me, I do think that this is something that I probably always would have known I had a skill set for, And I would have imagined this for myself if I would have had the imagination to think I could start a film festival one day, which, I mean, at some point I did, but I was almost 40 by then. So, now it feels like, oh yeah, like this is definitely the thing for me. And being connected to so many people who are so very talented, it makes my job that much easier. Like the hard part is, well, like, how do I fit these people in? How do I continue to make this festival film festival first and not Black Arts and Culture Festival featuring film? So it's been a blessing, and it's been I think it's been a certainly an added value for our clientele base. Yeah,
Okay, that
I hope that answered the question.
I mean, it did because you again, kind of like we touched on earlier, like you kind of have a wide view of selecting talent and both programming. So it sounds like it all works together in order for the audience to have that well-rounded experience.
Yeah, and also I
Like
do
your
a lot of
mom's gumbo. You know, I'm never going to forget that.
listen. Listen, I'm not lying to you. It's a bunch of the filmmakers. I'm still, connected with a bunch of them, and like they still talk about it. Some of them come back for it. So I'm just saying, it's real.
So, what opportunities do you see for Black filmmakers in the evolving film industry? How do you envision our future?
I love that we have been practicing and continue to practice telling our own stories. I love that Black people are taking the agency to manage all the parts of the creation for themselves. Um, you know, I watch any movie that feels good to me. So, I watch Christopher Nolan movies all the time. I watch Interstellar. I love movies that just, don't even have Black people in them sometimes. It's like, all right, all right, Prestige, I'll let you slide. You made a good movie. You know what I mean? But there's plenty of stories that I didn't see that I wanted to. There's plenty of stories that I didn't know that I wanted to see that I didn't see
Mm.
that I want to. And I don't feel like that's the case anymore. I don't feel like I have to wait for the annual Spike Lee movie to come out for me to see Black faces on the screen. Now I feel like I can't even get around to watching all of the content Black people make that I want to see anymore. I'm like, oh, this is great. I love this. So like we're doing all the things, and I love that we are taking agency to do it ourselves, and I love that we're not waiting around. I love that we're making short form content. I love that we're finding a lot of success with that, and that we're able to, occupy a significant piece of that space, and that a lot of the I mean, I don't know. My socials are only plugged into the connections that I have, and so maybe there's a lot more white people than Black people making the kind of content, short form content, but I'm only getting, the stuff that gets funneled through Black Twitter. You know what I mean? So I like everything I see has got Black people in it, and we're making fun of Black people and white people, and it's like whatever. So I love that. Like in my opinion, it feels like we are a dominant portion of that market, and it. I feel like it is what we're used to as Black people, doing the best with what we have. And again, talking about the lack of resources that we have, we may not have what we need to make a 20-minute short film, an hour and 45-minute feature length film. But we got a camera phone, so we can make a 45-second skit, and that
Yeah,
shit is gonna be hilarious. So,
right.
yeah, I love that Black people are taking ownership and doing whatever they want to do.
Same. Okay, I just have two more questions, and the
Give them to me.
the next is where do you see the Black Film Festival of New Orleans in the next 5 years?
So we're going into our seventh year this year. Again, I mentioned I've spent a lot of this time really trying to grapple with all the things. For the most part, I've done this alone, which is partially by design. I didn't know all of the jobs well enough to be able to delegate them. I have wanted a certain type of growth, but I've been lucky enough that I've wanted the growth to still be within an umbrella that I could manage. And at the time, it wasn't even for the reasons that I found out later were really good reasons. Like I have peers who have also run organizations that have grown a little too fast for them. They've had to fill roles because the institution's admin did not have the capacity to do all the jobs alone. They had to fill roles. They had to fill roles with people who may not have been up to the roles for one reason or another. And excuse me, I've seen some of the organizations take backwards in spite of their rapid growth. Like the kind of growth where they had a lot of resources, they may not have also had an understanding of who to put in charge of those resources in some ways. And I think that might have, like the growth might have been a detriment to them in some ways. Whereas my thing was always, I want to make sure that everything that is happening is something that's within my control. Number one, because I need to be able to figure out how to do this. I need to be able to know the machinations in order for me to like say, this is a good person for this job, or hey, I think I could train you up to do this job. I can't identify somebody who's going to do the job well if I don't know the job myself. And so, that was kind of my position for a while. And I think it has served me well because now I feel like I have a better grasp over it. And now I'm to the point where I'm actually starting to recruit people to delegate things to. So I'm working with a marketing person who, she did a festival last year, her and two other people, but she was the marketing person for this brilliant festival. It's called the Black Americana Music Festival. If you're into Black Americana music, this is, come September, the last weekend of September of every year is going to be that festival. And so I was able to recruit her to help out with my marketing. Cause I mean, she did an amazing job. Last year was the first year of their festival and they had thousands of people. And I was like this, and I was one of the people who was getting all of their materials all the time, and I was like, oh, this is so well organized, and like I happened to know the person who was in charge. I didn't know she was the one behind all of this, but she did an incredible job. And then when I showed up to the festival, it was like the response was overwhelming, and I was like, man, I really hope that she wants to do this for somebody besides Black Americana. So we've had conversations, and I've successfully been able to recruit her, and I've hired a development person who's going to assist me with some of the grant work and hopefully getting me some corporate sponsors, a thing that I'm also not skilled at. Like, I still haven't learned that part, like how to talk to a corporate sponsor. I have a product. I feel like it's a good product. You should get behind it. You should want your company's name on it. I don't know how to make that make sense to you. And so, hopefully this person does. So I say that to say that I feel like 5 years from now, my festival will be very similar to to the festival season that I envision this year. We're not just doing a festival this year. I'm going to do a couple of screening events, and then I mentioned to y'all earlier, I'm doing a film competition that's going to be here in New Orleans, and the goal is to get people to come to the city to make films. It's a free competition as long as you shoot your film in. I mean, well, the rules are you have to shoot your film in New Orleans, so it is what it is. But it's a free competition and we're giving away $7,000 in cash prizes, not a $7,000 prize, not one person winning 7,000, but like up to seven people winning various amounts of money. But it's free. It's free money. That competition is going to happen in August, and ideally that's a staple of the festival from now on. We'll always have that. Hopefully, it's something that I'll be able to find more resources for and be able to put more money into in the future. And then the big festival itself will be a big event. It'll be 2 weekends of one for the visiting filmmakers, one for our local community, and then a virtual festival to follow. So hopefully, I feel pretty strongly about the format that I've created because I've been testing that over the years. I think what happens now for me over the next 5 years is building out the team so that the presentation is that much more amazing. I want my programs to look really good. I want promotional material to be going out 5 and 6 months in advance instead of 1 month in advance. I want my filmmakers to be preparing to come to this to this film festival with 3 months notice instead of 2 months notice, that kind of thing. So I think, for me, my main goal is within these next 5 years is how do I make sure that this event that I've created and thought through and established and put a lot of time and energy into making sure is a good one also can live its best life. And I think I've started to find the steps to make that happen. So, I hopefully 5 years from now, Black Film Festival, New Orleans is, everybody's favorite film festival, and everybody wants to be a part of it. That's what I want 5 years from now.
I mean, and I love your answer that it's based on an ironclad infrastructure. Hmm.
What legacy do I hope my festival leaves behind?
Yes.
Well, I think, and this is something I think about a lot. I think that I would like the legacy be that the festival continues well beyond me. And I don't know the path for that right now. I said earlier, I look around and I don't really see a lot of people who are wanting to do this kind of work, or like that was the case in 2018. And I still don't, I don't get a lot of people who come in and are like, oh, I would like to, help you. I don't know. Maybe there are people who would like to like come to me and say, I would like to help you run this and be a person who could be considered to like continue perpetuating this beyond like however long you're doing it. But I guess I probably don't like lead to people with, hey, one day I won't do this anymore. And somebody else will have to do it. So I don't know, maybe people just don't think that that is something that they would tell me. But I just say all that to say that like every time I try to think about who's going to do this festival when I can't or don't do it anymore, and I don't really have an answer for that. And I have two kids. None of them, they're kind of interested in film. They're interested in being on camera. So they're interested in that. But are they interested in running a film festival? I don't get the impression that they are. They're also 14 and 11, so I don't know that what would they know as far as what they want to do with their lives now. But all I'm saying is that I don't know that I have an answer for what happens to the festival once I no longer do it. And I guess that's what I hope for the legacy of this festival is that it is an institution that is considered important enough and valuable enough that someone or someones from the community want to pick up the work when it's beyond my capacity. And, obviously I feel like the person who's most responsible for creating the festival that is that valuable is me in doing it right now. And so, again, hopefully this 5 years is putting us in a position for that kind of success where our systems are in place that if I am no longer here, the jobs I'm doing can be filled in by people who, can adequately do them. And then, ideally, I don't know, 30 years from now, let me think about it. 30 years, yeah, 30 years I won't want to do anything anymore. 30 years from now, when I just want to sit around and play cards all day, I hope that there's somebody who, or like several people who feel like, feel responsible for, indebted to, and want to be the stewards of this organization so that it continues in perpetuity.
Yeah. Okay. I love it.
Okay, yep. Let's put the glasses back on. A little old. Final thoughts on the role of black film festivals in shaping the industry. Well, what I spoke to earlier is that I do not trust that my very carefully, thoughtfully, and passionately made film is going to resonate with people reviewing my film for their white audience and their white film festivals. I do not have faith in that. Um, and, whether that's rightfully so or just because I am a skeptic, doesn't really matter. My position is still that, and I still necessarily feel that black film festivals then have to provide what we don't know we can count on from uh, primarily white institutions. Uh, we have to be responsible to the audience of people that trust us that we're going to find them black films, films that are representative of our culture, films that are, that are made with care, but whether white people are involved or not, films that are, are serving a need that isn't exploitative. Like a filmmaker making movies because they want to make money, that's not exploitative. A filmmaker making a movie about something they have no relationship with and piggybacking on a culture they don't belong to, care for, or have any interest in besides the, residual income that they'll get from it. That, I don't mess with that. And so, that's my job to gatekeep, to make sure that those people don't get through, that the people that do get through are the people that my community wants to engage with, that my community doesn't want to have to think about the intentions that this movie was made with. They don't want to have to think about, am I going to be surprised by some traumatic killing of a black person that happens for impact, and because white audiences need to see some tragic thing happen to black people to feel connected to them. Like people want to show up to a movie and disengage and just let the movie take them where it's supposed to be. And so black film festivals we have to provide that fence to make sure that the movies that are crossing the fence are the ones that our audience deserves and needs, and to make sure that our filmmakers are reaching the audiences that will appreciate and are looking for them. So, you know, that's our job. That's my job. I take it seriously.
That's it. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I know that sign. I appreciate you. Yes, you one of these.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Alrighty, that is a wrap on our conversation. We have to, of course, give a big shout out, a big thank you to Gian Smith, as well as the Black Film Festival of New Orleans. Y'all definitely stay tapped into everything that he's doing. You can follow him at East_Duvernay on Instagram. On Facebook, you can look for Gian Francisco Smith. And of course, you can follow us on all platforms under United We Heal Film Festival. Thank you for tuning in, and we can't wait to see you again. And bye.